Welcome back. Let's finish up chapter 7. So as we move forward, again, this next material also comes out of social psychology, so hopefully it's familiar to you and it's a reminder and just reinforces those lessons you've already learned. But the power of persuasion. How are we persuaded, or when are we most likely to be persuaded? These things help us to understand them so that when a salesman comes in or somebody we know where we're easily manipulated. And again, this is normal. That's why people do it. There's whole schools and studies on how to get somebody to do what you want them to do. And of course, there's different strategies to that. But one of the reasons that we're going to be persuaded is a good one, is that we find the source credible. So somebody's just talking, but they don't really know what they're talking about. We don't necessarily get persuaded by that. We might listen, we might not, but we're not invested in it because we don't feel that they know what they're talking about. But if the person is credible, so they're a doctor in that area, they're a specialist in that area, then we're going to be more inclined to pay attention to them. By all means, if I'm giving you advice on how to fix your car, don't listen to it because I don't know anything about it. But if I'm giving you some ideas on something that's psychology related, I hope you take some time to at least listen and see if maybe it has merit. But don't let me fix your car because I don't know what I'm doing. Is the person likable? If we like a person, if we feel like they're listening to us and we have a good relationship, we have a good rapport, we're more likely to listen to them. Somebody who we find offensive or difficult to deal with, we're less likely to listen to. Good or bad, we're still influenced by attractiveness. So if we find the person attractive, we are more likely to listen to them. So that's not necessarily the way it should be, but it is often the way it is. We also like to hear, generally speaking, especially, particularly those that are educated, like to hear two-sided arguments. It makes us feel more educated, it makes us feel more ready, it makes us feel more prepared, and it makes us feel like we made the decision. So we don't want to hear just one side, we want to see or hear both sides of the story. And sometimes people will try to make sure you don't hear the other side. So when you see that happening, and if we raise our awareness, that's when our spidey sense should kick in and go, wait a minute, maybe that's not the way I want it to be. We also like people who create a positive vibe. So a lot of times your salesmen, they're very friendly, they're very flattering, they're very complimentary. They're going to find some common denominator between you and them. I have a grandchild that's that age, or I have a child that's that age, or I went to that residence. We're going to find this common ground so you like them and that you feel good about them and you want to befriend them and get whatever product it is they're trying to sell. I just had somebody try to sell me tires, and I was like, I can see like all the techniques happening as they were coming back. And the last thing that they wanted to hear is write down your price, and I'm going to do some research, and I'll get back with you if it's a good deal. They needed to make that sale that day, and so and they worked really hard to charm me, and I did not buy the tires. I will buy tires, but I'm not going to buy. Well, I don't know. I haven't done my comparison yet. The other thing that we do when we're trying to talk to somebody, and these aren't bad things, is we look at the receiver. What does that receiver want from me? Does that person that I'm working with, do they want to hear a lot of information? Are they informationally based? Do they just want to feel good about themselves? Do they just want to feel like they can invest in me? What do they want from me? And that will help them to make a decision if I'm meeting their needs. Conformity comes up in this chapter. This is something, again, focused on in social psychology. What conformity is when people yield to real or imagined social pressures. It talks about the Asch experiment, and it goes into some other conformity experiments. But basically the Asch experiments where there's several lines and you can look at the 3 lines and go, or 4 lines I guess it was, and say, that one's definitely shorter. But when everybody else has a different answer, you start to question yourself. So if you're not invested, you might just go with the flow. If you really like those people around you and you think they're pretty smart, you might go with their ideas. So there are reasons why we're more likely to conform, especially if we're in an area that's unfamiliar. So with regards to tire hunting, I don't really know that much. So if I had people that were experts in that area, I might be more willing to listen to their ideas than to one I created. So why do we conform? Again, either we don't know what to do, we're looking for guidance, we believe that person is more intelligent in that particular area, or we don't want to be judged as the outcast. We don't want to be different than everyone else. Younger children are very susceptible to this, but even as we grow older, especially if we're outside of our comfort zone, we don't want to be the odd man out, most of us. And so we will conform, especially if we don't see any real consequence to conforming. trying a new food you've never tried and you think it's good. Well, okay, I'll go along with that. I don't have a reason not to. The same thing happens with how we help or who we help. Again, this is in social psych as well. But basically, the bystander effect comes into play here, and your book addresses it. Who do we help and when do we help? We help more often when we are alone or only a couple of other people, because when there's lots of people, we think that somebody else must know what they're doing better than me, or nobody else shows alarm, so why should I be alarmed? This does not hold true for everybody. People that are in helping fields, people that are first responders, tend not to do that. One of the reasons is that you're educated past it and you know that that happens. And we are less likely to respond when we're in an unfamiliar situation because we don't know how to interpret it, or we don't know if maybe that would be normal for that situation. So those are reasons why we would or would not help. Or finally, do we feel we are capable of helping? So going back to the car, if your car is broken, I'm not going to stop and help you because I don't know how to fix a car. I might call somebody and tell them there is a stranded motorist. In fact, I probably will because I don't fall victim as easily to bystander effect because I'm aware of it. So if I call in and they go, oh yeah, we got that call, I'm like, okay, cool. No big deal. But I know so many people don't call. That's why I would probably call. But I won't stop, especially if I'm alone, for fear that something could happen to me and I'm not, what am I going to do? Just be one more person to stare at your car. So it doesn't make sense. Your book also talks a little bit about the Milgram experiment and how he came up with his studies after Hitler. Again, this is addressed a great deal in social psych, where he basically uses electric shocks and says, how can we convince somebody to hurt somebody else? We would think that would go against their nature, and it does. And yet people will still do it if convinced that that person is an authority and is in the right in telling them what to do. So we all like to believe in a live class. Sometimes I have people go, and 95% of the students will say, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. No way I would do it. And then we look at the actual study and how many people did it. What makes us so different than those people? And maybe we are. And maybe there's some more similarities than we'd like to admit. Finally, we like to stick with our commitments. We like to stick with what we say we're going to do. We don't like to be wishy-washy or change our mind too much. We don't like that dissonance, that distance between it. If we said it, then we want to stand by our beliefs. And finally, the reciprocity principle, very hard to say. Reciprocity principle, you know where I'm at. Find it in the book. It is basically, we feel the need to help out others who have helped us out. So if people have been friendly and been there for us, we are much more likely to step up and try to help them out because we feel an attachment and a need to help them because they've helped us. So you scratch my back, I scratch yours kind of feeling. And finally, the scarcity principle. So we are more likely to act if we feel like that resource is going to go away. So we are much more likely to buy Girl Scout cookies the very last week than we are in the middle. Because in the middle, we figure I can come and get them tomorrow. But if it's the last week or the last day, you'll see they'll hang their signs, last day, and then they're going to get that last push because it could go away for a year. And that's why we're going to do that. So come on back for Chapter 8. We've got lots of good stuff in Chapter 8 as we talk about interpersonal communications. I look forward to seeing you soon.